Hi, my little pretties. This is the Queen of Lions here, and today, you guys might know the mic quality is a little bit different because I don't have my headset on, and reason why for that is because my mom and my brother have gone to bed. So yeah, that's kind of why I decided, I go ahead and basically, well, decided to do this without the mic, and I'm pretty sure, we're not going to hear any sounds or anything because my brother's gone to bed, my same as my mom, so I'm basically the only one awake. Now, one of my friends named Space Voyager and another of his friends known as Seth Bayona actually mentioned a certain story that is a shock story. So I decided to go sit here and take a look at this one shocking creepypasta. I mean, I've done a few videos where I talk about certain creepypastas that are shocking. They were just there for the sake of shock value. Now I'm going to take a look at this one story. Well, I kind of decided to read it. I'm not really reading it or anything. I just kind of skimmed through, what the story is about because, yeah, this story is called Dating Game. And this one, if I can remember correctly, I remember listening to Mr. Creepypasta narrated this back in, I believe it was 2017 or something, but I wasn't really into creepypastas at the time. And that was way before I started getting into creepypastas. So basically, to cut to the chase as to what the story is going to be about, there are certain subject matters that I am not going to go too much into detail because one of them being it's not ad friendly, and two, I will, if I do, explain a bit about, what happens in the story, I'm basically going to sit there and, to put it as bluntly as I possibly can, I basically would sit there and explain, kind of in a ad friendly way because yeah, if I go too much into detail, YouTube's most likely not going to be fond of it. So we all know about how strict YouTube is nowadays. So yeah, let's begin with this. So this one is basically about the protagonist who is like a 32-year-old person, and this person's single for a while, and this person wants to go to wants to have a date or something. So the protagonist is a male, and this one gets to finds a girl that he likes, and then as they go, unfortunately some misunfortunates do happen. I mean, I'm skimming through this because I didn't even bother to sit there and read the story or read it for myself because mainly, I mean, everything that I've heard and was described in the story, I could definitely say right now it is very messed up in matters of ways. It is very messed up. I mean, it's just when 1 from 100 with certain, things for shock value. So, yeah, I mean, it's really messed up to be honest. Like, I mean, it seems like a pretty interesting creepypasta, and it seems fine at first in the beginning, but then it starts getting really, really, really weird. Like, I mean, what happens is, basically, there's a lot of, shock value that was incorporated in this story just for the sake of, doing so. And it involves, I believe it involves, the protagonist of the story getting, violated by the person who this person was dating or something. I'm not really sure because I haven't read that story because I haven't heard of that narration in a while. Because I remember Mr. Creepypasta actually sat there and narrated the story. I believe I saw it in 2017, but I wasn't into creepypastas at the time. I wasn't really interested in the creepypastas until I met Andal. I met Andal back in 2017, and yeah, that's how I got into creepypastas was because I met Andal, and Andal inspired me, to like certain creepypasta stories. I mean, and then I met Shadow Reader at that same year, so I got inspired by Shadow Reader mostly, but Andal kind of helped get started on the concept and that. So there's definitely that. So, in my personal opinion about this story, This story is a very, it's just there for the sake of shock value. Certain subject matters that are in this story. I believe it involved, I believe this, one guy who was the protagonist who was dating this, woman or something, and this woman probably, went out of her way and tortured this man and, well, protagonist in many ways, and I can count. And I mean, it's really, the concept of itself is shocking. I mean, there's a lot of shock value stuff just for the sake of shock value. I mean, wow, this story just went from what I've heard from 1 to 100 on it. So yeah, don't even bother to ask me to narrate this story, because this is one story I will not narrate because of how, shocking this story concept that the story has. It's very messed up, yes, but I also will agree that this story honestly just, I mean, I can't, I'm gonna definitely say this right now. This story honestly is just there for the sake of shock value. All the shocking subject matters there in this story. So I don't even bother to narrate it. I don't even bother to narrate this story or even finish reading it. That's why I just kind of skim through it. And I will have to agree with Seth and even, Space Voyager on this story, because this story is definitely a shock story. If I have to put it bluntly, it's just as bad as Sweet Apple Massacre. All I know, I'm gonna say this right now, not to sound like a hypocrite, but all shock stories are just there for the sake of shock. Just kind of like how, for example, Sweet Apple Massacre, Dipper Goes to Taco Bell, and a few other, stories that do this. So, shock value for the sake of shock value. No, I mean, I'm gonna definitely say I did discover something from what Space and Seth told me, is that, um when this story was, released to the public by, well, certain narrators who narrated the story, especially, Mr. Creepypasta, a lot of people were, this story got backlash, and you know, I don't blame the people who, hate this story, because I don't blame them for it, because personally, in my opinion, I never liked this story after what Seth and Space Voyager described it. This story was just automatically just, it's just shock value for the sake of shock value in many ways than I could count. So, yeah, I mean, I from what I did hear as well is that, some of the fans or something, from what I did hear, who actually, heard of the story and, well, heard about how this story was, especially with the shock value, just for the sake of there was, in it. I'm not going to state, what shock values that are in this story, because one of them being it's not ad friendly, and two, if most of you guys might remember, if you guys know where to find this story, this is on the regular Creepypasta wiki. I'm surprised this story did not get taken down. I'm surprised that this story hasn't even got taken down due to its violent nature. And I mean, it's very messed up in many ways I could count. So, it's kind of one of the reasons why this story is just, it's just shock value for the sake of shock value. That's all I could definitely say about this story. Now, one of the reasons being why I will not narrate this story is because I honestly was starting to feel a bit sick when I first, when I was skimming through with it, of the story, especially with the subject matter, being all over the place, and, shock value for the sake of shock value. Yeah, I wasn't puking, but I was kind of gagging because of how, disgusting that this story, is, to be honest. I mean, if you want to read it for yourself, I don't recommend you reading it, because you obviously will most likely regret even taking a look at the story, because of how, disgusting and messed up that this concept really is. I mean, I don't plan to read this whole story or anything like that, so yeah, you don't see me reading that story. So yeah, that's something I'm definitely stating this right now, is that this is actually one of the creepypastas I don't plan to narrate, as well as, what is it? Oh yeah, as well as other stories such as, well, Sweet Apple Massacre, Dipper Goes to Taco Bell. Although I will have to say, yeah, this story was it. I don't plan to narrate this story, so don't bother asking me. Another thing I did notice from what Seth and Space Voyager told me is that this story was also oh yeah, this story was also having people send death threats to the author who wrote the story because of the shocking subject matter and all that is. I mean, I'm gonna say right now, saying death threats to somebody over a certain story, even if it's a shock story, is wrong. It's really wrong to sit there and do that because you're obviously just making yourself sounding like an asshole if you send death threats to somebody just because they wrote a shock story or something. You could criticize the story and the author for the story itself and all that. That's fine. I don't have a problem if, anybody sits there and does that. But if you're going to go as far as making death threats or something like that, then yeah, that's not cool. Death threats is something that I will not tolerate on my channel. I will not tolerate anybody making death threats or anything like that. So that's something I want to state that now is when it comes to a certain story, if you don't like a certain story, that's understandable because, everyone has their own opinions on certain stories. But with all due honesty, I don't really care for this story. I don't like it. You guys might have your own opinions on it. Like, if you like this story, that's fine. But yet again, I could definitely say right now, most of you guys are gonna, agree with me that I don't like this story. And I mean, I can understand why it's a hatred story and why this one was highly hatred. Like, I mean, take a look at Sweet Apple Massacre, for example. That one was highly hated because it was written by a troll to troll the brony community. And that was, I believe, sometime in 2013 or 2014. I can't remember when Sweet Apple Massacre was written, but it was written about that time. Around there, at least. So, like I'm going to say right now, this is just my opinion on the story. You happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions. One of them I'm going to say right now is no making death threats or anything like that. I don't like this story. I'm just saying that now. This story is just nothing else more than a shock story. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely say right now, do not go and attack the author for this story. Don't go and attack the author for this story because it's not right. It's not right to sit there and attack the author for the story. If you don't like, since most of us are gonna not like the story, like I don't like the story, that's fine. If you don't like the story, which I'm sure most of you guys don't, that's fine. But I mean, don't go and attack the author for it because it's not right. We don't go and attack people just because they wrote a story and we don't like it. I mean, don't go and attack people just because they wrote a story that is shocking, for example, and we don't like it. Because one of them being, that's not right to do. And so, anyways, I guess with that being the case and with that being said, the video is as long as it is. So yeah, leave me what your thoughts are on this story in the comments below. Please be respectful in the comments section. That's one thing I ask is you guys is to please be respectful in the comments section because any disrespectful comments will be blocked. Not blocked, but they will be removed. And any more people keep making these disrespectful comments, yeah, you will get blocked if you basically violate this rule. Like, I warn you once to, be respectful in the comments and don't do no opinion bashing or anything like that. But if you break that rule, then yeah, you will be blocked because I don't tolerate any behavior like that in my community. So, anyways, I guess with that being said, and with that being the case, yeah. Anyways, what did you guys think about this story? Highly chances most of you guys don't like this story, and I don't blame you for not liking this story. And what would you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you're new to my channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.